Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1778 BN. Today's date is January 29th, 2019, and the title of the episode is Shadow Players Are the Deadliest. Stealth Has Its Advantages. Boo. Now, before we get started, I wanted to talk about getting prepared and being self-reliant. We've seen what the deep state is capable of. We've seen what the central bankers are capable of. And my main theme has always been to prepare for any situation. One of the best places I found to purchase survival supplies and emergency preparedness gear and food is My Patriot Supply. They understand the drive to practice emergency preparedness. Why? Because My Patriot Supply are active participants in the survivalist lifestyle. My Patriot Supply offers a vast array of survival items. Go to mypatriotsupply.com today and get prepared for any situation, because true freedom comes from attaining a certain level of self-reliance. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, we are seeing more and more indicators that the deep state, they are preparing for what is coming. Now, Q has been telling us what to expect, and many of the posts are going back 6 months, 8 months, a year. And now we are starting to see the deep state do everything that Q has said they were going to do when the time came. Well, we're at that time, and we're starting to see a lot of it. You know why? Because they're starting to realize that everything is about to happen. How do we know this? How do we know that everything is about to happen? Well, remember, Trump is not going to declassify because there's the Mueller investigation going on. What is Mueller really investigating? I don't think it's what everyone thinks it is. I do believe that Mueller is investigating many other things. We have to remember, and we need to go back in time, Mueller met with Trump, and it wasn't for the FBI position, because Mueller could not be the FBI head anymore because he served too many years in the FBI. We have to remember that Mueller was part of the Uranium One scandal. Q has been telling us that Mueller is trying to save himself. Many people think that Mueller is a black hat, white hat, maybe he's a gray hat. Maybe he's working both sides. But something very interesting happened, and this happened yesterday. Acting Attorney General Matthew Whitaker said he believes that Special Counsel Robert Mueller's investigation into whether the Trump campaign and Russia colluded during the 2016 election is close to being completed. Right now, the investigation is, I think, close to being completed. And remember, since Sessions recused himself, Acting Attorney General Matthew Whitaker now controls Mueller. Rosenstein no longer does. So Whitaker said, I hope we can get the report from Director Mueller as soon as possible. And we can see that once this report comes out, and we know that Grassley wants it completely transparent, and Q has been telling us to trust Grassley, so everyone can see it, we're going to see many things happen. I do believe once this happens, everything is going to accelerate. Everything is going to move very, very quickly. Because once this happens, they can't say the declass or anything that's being done interferes with the Russian collusion investigation. That is out the window. Now, Devin Nunes dropped some more bombshells, and this is coming out of the Gateway Pundit. And let me just read the first section here. Many people are overlooking the implications of his speculation, and more importantly, how Nunes' statement answers just about every contradictory question people have carried, including why Rosenstein introduced Mueller to President Trump the day before he was appointed as special counsel, why Mueller-Rosenstein are hiding the investigative origination letter, why President Trump has not been able to declassify documents, why President Trump is and will always be hamstrung by Mueller investigation. In short, Devin Nunes speculated that Deputy AG Rod Rosenstein put the substantive allegation from Fusion GPS or Steele dossier into his investigative instructions that he gave Robert Mueller. If it is accurate, that Rosenstein charged Robert Mueller with investigating the dossier claims, and if Nunes is accurate that the Department of Justice investigative target, a derivative of the dossier, is Trump, well, everything starts to make a hell lot more sense. If the mandate given to Robert Mueller was to specifically investigate the sitting president of the United States as an active participant and subsequent target for a counterintelligence operation, then DAG, Rod Rosenstein, and Mueller would have to hide the mandate from everyone and anyone. More specifically, Rosenstein would never be able to honestly discuss the Mueller probe with Trump because Trump would be the primary target within the investigation. And that changes everything. If you flip the paradigm and now look at what actions Trump could take while reconsidering that he is the likely principal target, well, 2 years of contradictory things start to make more sense. The conversation and inability of Rod Rosenstein to be honest with POTUS changes the dynamic of this tweet. I met with the Department of Justice concerning the declassification of various unredacted documents. They agreed to release them, but stated that doing so may have perceived negative impact on the Russian probe. Also, key allies called to ask not to release. Therefore, the Inspector General has been asked to review these documents on an expedited basis. I believe he will move quickly on this, and hopefully other things which he is looking at. In the end, I can always declassify it if it proves necessary. Speed is very important to me and everyone. So Trump, he has always been the main person they've been investigating, and they've been going in all different directions. And once again, the Department of Justice is not going to declassify any of this with the investigation going on. Trump is not going to do this right now because he knows that this would be against him in every way. The mainstream media, the deep state, they would all say he interfered with the Mueller investigation. They would use this against him. Remember, Q has been telling us that Mueller is, one, working to save himself. Mueller was supposed to be the block, the firewall, and now it's all coming to an end. We're waiting for this report, and Whitaker has just told us that this report is coming. Now, Sara Carter added an article on top of all of this to bring this out into the open. And she starts off saying that we know that Attorney General Jeff Sessions appointed former Utah U.S. Attorney John Huber to investigate the allegations stemming regarding the FBI probe into Trump and alleged Russian collusion in March 2018. However, it's almost impossible to locate him and find anyone with any idea of what he's actually doing. No one in Congress has any indication Huber has talked to anyone, requested documents, or done anything else. So think about this for a second. There have been no leaks, no information, and nobody knows anything that's really going on here. Now, she talks about leaking. All the leaks came from where? It came from the Mueller investigation. Lieutenant General Michael Flynn. That was leaked. Comey leaked. James Clapper leaked. Roger Stone leaked. All of this was leaked from the Mueller side. What was leaked from Huber? Nothing. So they asked the Department of Justice about Huber. They said Huber, well, his work continues. And they declined to comment anything beyond that. So we've seen no leaks from Huber. We've seen all the leaks from Mueller. And all these leaks are about lying to Congress or the FBI. And there's other investigations going on at the same time. So let me continue with Sara Carter's article here. Huber's allegedly leading an investigation, I say, because numerous witnesses that should have been interviewed have never been interviewed, Allegedly is also the operative word because Department of Justice refuses to answer even the most simplest of questions regarding Huber and his investigation. Now, Paul Sperry tweeted out the following. Breaking. Department of Justice, IG Horowitz investigators have been interviewing senior Justice Department officials Bruce Orr, the Steele dossier back channeler, as part of IG's investigation of potential Pfizer abuses. Orr's key witness, because he's one of the few FBI Department of Justice witnesses still employed and within IG reach. So, Huber, he's working in the shadows. Q has told us that there's someone else working in stealth. Let's go back to post 2072. Now, everything that Sara Carter said that they had known nothing about what Huber's doing. He hasn't investigated any witnesses. Q said the following. This is September 3rd, 2018. But Huber has not directly interviewed several witnesses. Therefore, the appointment of Huber by Sessions and therefore the IG is not genuine. But Sessions and Huber are following standard Department of Justice open, ongoing investigations policy by not discussing making public, so therefore nothing must be happening. But Huber, ability to prosecute and impanel a grand jury outside of D.C., who already began the investigations late last year with a signed team of about 470 investigators, plus IG, plus legal jurisdiction across all 50 states, is not a special counsel. So therefore, nothing is being done. But interestingly, if nothing's being done behind the scenes, why are so many FBI and Department of Justice senior officials being fired and or removed from their respective positions of power? Who is AG? Who must sign off on each removal? Department of Justice in charge of FBI. But interestingly, if nothing is being done behind the scenes, why are there 50,000 plus sealed indictments across the U.S.? But interestingly, if nothing is being done behind the scenes, why are many powerful CEOs, members of Congress, Senate resigning? Just because we see nothing happening doesn't mean nothing is happening. Just because you hear the leaks and you see the arrest from Mueller, it doesn't mean you know exactly what's going on. Let's move on to post 2462. Q said, shadow players are the deadliest. Stealth. What is the advantage of having a temp acting in leadership positions? Well, we know. It's a Scaramucci model. Post 2626. The clock is ticking. When will the first alarm bell ring? I believe the first alarm bell is when Mueller issues the report. If the Senate was the primary target, majority control, 53 to 47, active when? Well, we know. It's already active. Executive order? Well, that is active. Let's move on to post 2603, December 12, 2018. What if there's another prosecutor outside of D.C. assigned by Sessions with the same mandate, authority as Huber? One for the history books. Not long now. So just because we see nothing happening, just because there aren't leaks, doesn't mean there aren't investigations. And maybe people were spoken to and they had to sign a non-disclosure. Maybe they're keeping everything so tight so nobody knows what's going on. Remember, you don't want to tip off the deep state. Tipping off the deep state, well, they put their guard up. If they think nothing is happening, nothing at all, they lower their guard. They go about their business. They think nothing is happening. There are no leaks. There's no information. We have nothing to worry about. This is why you don't see them scrambling. This is how they want it. This is how a real investigation is done. A real investigation is not leaking every 5 seconds and having the FBI storm in on someone that has no weapon and really has not committed any type of, heinous crime. That's the show. The real work is being done behind the scenes, and you don't want the deep state to let on to what is happening. You want them to think that everything is not happening. This way, you can gather more evidence on them. This way, they go about their business. They think they're in control. They think they have the power. Now we see that Trump has accepted Pelosi's invitation to do the State of the Union. He wrote a letter to Nancy Pelosi and said, "Thank you for your letter inviting me to deliver the State of the Union before a joint session of Congress on Tuesday, February 5th, 2019. It is my great honor to accept. We have a great story to tell and yet great goals to achieve." Donald Trump. So we can see already the State of the Union, it is on. Now, we see something very interesting. A federal judge canceled Paul Manafort's sentencing in Virginia. U.S. District Judge T. Ellis wrote that Manafort's current dispute in a separate federal case in Washington, D.C. makes it prudent and appropriate to delay sentencing in this case. So they canceled the sentencing for Manafort because there's something else going on. It seems like something else is going on with Flynn, and it seems like it's something else going on with many other people because there are other investigations going on. Now let's talk about Venezuela for a sec here. Now, yesterday we talked about how Bolton was out there giving a speech. And again, I do believe that Trump has certain people in certain positions to push a certain agenda, to keep the deep state, the neocons, the mainstream media very, very busy. And we know that Trump recognized Juan Guaido. And we see at this moment they've placed sanctions on PDVSA. This is Venezuela's state-owned oil giant. And we see that the mainstream media, the deep state, the neocons, they are loving this. Now, with John Bolton, when he was giving his little speech, he had a yellow notepad, and the mainstream media zoomed in on the yellow notepad because they wanted to know what that little scribble said. And it said that 5,000 troops to Colombia was handwritten. Do you really think he just wrote this down just to write it down? No, this was planned. They wanted the mainstream media to put this out there. They want the mainstream media to think that Trump is going in with weapons, with troops, and he's going to invade Venezuela. This is a distraction for the deep state, the neocons, and the mainstream media. This is all done on purpose. Using this strategy, Trump and the Patriots, they can work behind the scenes. Let's go back a little bit in time with North Korea. Kim Jong-un was this dangerous man who was firing nuclear missiles, having this nuclear program, getting ready to attack the United States. We've come to find out that the deep state was controlling Kim Jong-un. We also know that that Trump was out there pushing the agenda that the United States would go into North Korea. He had McMaster's out there pushing the idea that we had troops on the ready to invade North Korea. Now remember, you have to look at how Trump reacts to these things and what he does. The Patriots right now, they don't want to start another war. This would be ridiculous. It'd make no sense. This is not how they work. They're working to establish peace. Remember when Trump said that he wouldn't speak to Kim Jong-un, called him a little fat boy, called him names? The mainstream media loved it. And then one day, the president says he would be open to a meeting with North Korean leader, but that it is not time to do so yet. But he would be open to it. Trump wants these individuals to come to him. He's been waiting for the Iranian leader, they're a little bit tougher, to come to him. He wants, I do believe, Maduro to come to him. Now, very interestingly, Prosecutor General Tarek Saab has asked the Supreme Court to ban Venezuela's self-proclaimed interim president, Juan Guaido, from leaving the country and block his assets. Now, the mainstream media is angry over this. The deep state is angry over this. I'm sure Trump is going to come out and say, I am angry over this. How dare they? And I do believe something else is happening right now. Now, this is coming out of the Gray Zone Project. And let me just read a little bit of this. Juan Guaido is the product of a decade-long project overseen by Washington's elite regime change trainers. While posing as a champion of democracy, he has spent years at the forefront of a violent campaign of destabilization. Before the fateful day of January 22nd, fewer than 1 in 5 Venezuelans had heard of Juan Guaido. Only a few months ago, the 35-year-old was an obscure character in a politically marginal far-right group closely associated with gruesome acts of street violence, even in his own party. Guaido had been a mid-level figure in the opposition-dominated National Assembly, which is now held under contempt according to Venezuela's constitution. But after a single phone call from Pence, all of a sudden, he is now the man. And it looks like this is what the elite wanted all along. The elite have been pushing for this. But the question we have to ask ourselves is, what if Venezuela is a deep state stronghold? What if Trump right now is making a move to free the country from the deep state? Now, I'm not saying Maduro is going to be the leader. I'm not saying Juan Guaido is going to be the leader. What I'm saying is, what if this is the move, just like with North Korea? This is the move to get the deep state. What if this is the move to rout them out? Think about what is happening right now. Trump and the Patriots, they don't want war. They want peace around the world. The deep state has many different strongholds in many different countries. And we know the war in Afghanistan, the war in Syria, the war in Libya, Lebanon, Iraq, with North Korea, Ukraine, Venezuela, all deep state produced. And we know it wasn't because of democracy. We know it wasn't because of the reasons they told us. We know it wasn't because the people wanted freedom. It was about what they wanted for themselves. So this is something we need to watch very, very carefully. In Afghanistan, it looks like they're getting closer and closer to a peace deal. And it looks like the U.S. might be out of Afghanistan entirely in about 18 months or sooner. They're preparing and getting ready to sign a peace deal, which is going to remove foreign troops from Afghanistan. Now, let's think about Afghanistan for a second. Remember, the deep state used Afghanistan to push their drug industry. And these are the poppy fields which they sold covertly all over the world to keep their entire system operational by selling drugs. Trump and the Patriots are getting ready to shut this down. This is a huge blow to the deep state. Now, Trump in Syria has done the same thing there. Everything the deep state has planned on, well, it's all being reversed. Think about what Trump has done. He's removed the soldiers, the U.S. forces from Syria. Yes, it's in the process, and they're moving them out. And as the U.S. is moving the troops out, we know the Kurds are left over. And everyone was very worried about this, especially the deep state, the intelligence organizations, because they knew Trump was unwinding everything that they've done here. And I know that Dan Coates was out there saying that the Islamic State, they're getting ready to attack and they're going to fill the vacuum once the U.S. leaves, and they're making all this stuff up. So the Kurds were supported by the deep state. They were armed, they were funded, and they were going to use the Kurds to split Syria and then eventually split the Middle East into Kurds, into Shia, into Sunni, into Alawite, and that has fallen apart. And the Kurds, they needed the Kurds. And what they're doing here is they're afraid that if Trump pulls all the troops out of here, what happens to the Kurds? A lot of people think that Turkey is going to come in and destroy them. Well, they've already planned for this. Trump pulls the troops out of Syria. The Kurds are now left alone. Remember, Trump removed the funding. He's no longer supported. They're no longer getting weapons. And they're left to their own devices. The Kurds are sitting there. Now, either they face Turkey or they look towards Assad. Guess what they're doing? They're looking towards Assad. So where does this leave Turkey? Remember, Erdogan is controlled by Putin. Putin doesn't want to see a war there. Putin doesn't want Turkey to invade and destroy all the Kurds and start major fighting there. So the Kurds, they're having diplomatic talks with Assad. Soon, the Kurds and Syria, they're going to meld together. Putin is going to keep Erdogan back because there's nothing that he can do. It's out of his control right now. This has already been planned. Now, I want to turn towards post 868, and it says, here comes the fake videos. Now, we've been talking about this, and this is about how they can make one person's face say something while another person is speaking, and it looks like that person is saying something. And we're seeing more and more of these articles come out, which means we're getting closer and closer to D-Day, to Boom Day, because out of CNN, they have a special report. What is a deep fake? And they explain it, and they show exactly how it's done. Adam Schiff was out there, and he was talking about porno actors where they're taking other women's faces and putting on top of those actresses, how he's saying how this is fake. We're seeing more and more of this, and this tells us something. This tells us that we are getting closer. This is an indicator that they're getting nervous and afraid. Now, I just want to turn my attention to RBG for a second, because American Thinker, that's AmericanThinker.com, they came out with an article, and they said it has been 54 days since the public laid eyes on the 85-year-old Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and her absence is promoting calls for proof of life. Now, the last time we saw her was December 6, 2018, when she heard arguments in person at the court. Then, of course, she underwent surgery on the 21st of December to get rid of cancer. And since that time, we haven't seen her. Now, she's canceled 2 different engagements. One, I believe, was in the end of January. The other one they already canceled is February 6th. And it doesn't seem like she's making any type of appearances. Now, again, many individuals think that maybe she's in a coma. Maybe she's passed away already. But this brings me back to James Comey and to George H.W. Bush when he passed away. Remember when Comey tweeted out the following? Our dog Benji died this afternoon because he was a rescue. He didn't know his age today except very old. He was a friend to an entire big family, as only a dog can be. Goodbye, old soul. Now, this was November 14th, 2018. We know the mainstream media announced that George H.W. Bush died November 30th, and then the funeral was December 5th. So it looks like Comey was tweeting out the death of George H.W. Bush, because if we go back to post 1649 with Q, it says, every dog has his day. And it's funny, he's telling us that the deep state use code words and dogs to say that maybe someone passed away. So this brings me to Donna Brazile. And I was talking to Jordan Sather. I just interviewed him. You'll see this interview on Saturday. But we were talking about RBG, and he mentioned this tweet, which is kind of out of nowhere. And Donna Brazile said the following: "Rest in peace, Boo. The world's cutest dog has died." Now, this was an article in BuzzFeed, and this was January 19th, 2019. And what's very interesting is that RBG's nickname, her grandchildren called her Booby, and Donna Brazile said Boo, which is very close. The other thing is, it says the dog was 12 years old and RBG is 85. And if you use the calculation from dog years to human years, and usually it's around 7 times each dog year, it turns out to be 84, which is very close to 85. And of course, if you add on a couple of months, it probably would be 85. But this is very strange in itself. And it looks like this might be code letting us know something. Now, I'm not saying it is, but it's very strange. And coming from Q has mentioned that every dog has its day. So at this point, we can see that maybe this is an indicator letting us know what exactly happened. And they're waiting for the proper moment to let everyone know. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.